un model economic relativ nou prinde teren în tot mai multe state din lume. Economia bunăstării este construită cu scopul de a servi oamenii și planeta, de a asigura prosperitate pentru toată lumea în armonie cu mediul înconjurător. Este posibil așa ceva? Răspunsul este da și cele mai bune exemple vin din Islanda. Katrín Jakobsdóttir este prim-ministrul guvernului din Islanda și ne vorbește astăzi despre cum politicile se pot schimba să lucreze în favoarea oamenilor. Sunt Cristina Cileacu, începe Pașaport Diplomatic. Katrín Jakobsdóttir, Prime Minister of Iceland, welcome to Diplomatic Passport.
Thank you.
Și dacă economiile nu sunt doar despre făcut profit? Aceasta este întrebarea la care au răspuns câteva state din lume, care aleg să facă o schimbare. Economiile nu mai trebuie concentrate doar asupra bunurilor și serviciilor, comerțului și consumului. Ele trebuie construite cu o deschidere mai amplă, care să aibă în centru bunăstarea de lungă durată. Sănătatea cetățenilor este mai importantă decât câștigul economic, pentru că fără oameni apți să lucreze, nu poți crește economic pe termen lung. Grija pentru mediul în care trăim și muncim este mai importantă decât profitul, pentru că o catastrofă naturală poate să afecteze grav orice economie dezvoltată. PIB-ul nu este neapărat cea mai bună măsură a puterii economice, pentru că nu include bunăstarea, iar prosperitatea poate fi măsurată obiectiv prin indicatorii de sănătate și educație a unui popor, dar și subiectiv dacă ne referim la cât de fericită este o societate și cât de mare este gradul de încredere între cetățenii ei.
Prime Minister, your country, together with other four, is part of what is called Well-being Economic Alliance. What exactly is this type of governance?
Well, what we are collaborating about is really creating what we call a well-being framework around our public policies, which means a holistic approach to everything we do as a government and as a state. Meaning that it's not enough just to look at the economy. We have to think about society, we have to think about environment. We began by developing 40 indicators to measure well-being, because it tends to happen that what you measure counts most in political debate. And then we have actually now formed 6 well-being priorities in our budget plan. And hopefully we will be moving onwards to the next step, which is trying to evaluate all our policies. What effect will they have on the well-being of the people? And I think it's a very exciting new approach in really talking about welfare and thinking about society as a whole, because you can have economic growth without really ensuring the well-being of the people.
Guvernarea bunăstării pe care Islanda o practică înseamnă că sistemele economico-sociale sunt orientate spre oameni și pun accentul pe sustenabilitate. Nevoile de bază pe care le au cetățenii sunt rezolvate, dar totul se face ca o combinare a intereselor, pentru ca ideea de viață bună chiar să fie pusă în practică. Acest concept de economie a bunăstării susține mai puțin creșterea materială și mută atenția pe starea de bine a omenirii și curățenia mediului în care trăim. Asta înseamnă să muncim mai eficient, nu mai mult, să producem și să consumăm ce și cât avem nevoie, nu mai mult, pentru că irosim. Să folosim tehnologia nu ca să ne înlocuiască, ci pentru că poate fi mai precisă. Prin astfel de abordări, oamenii se pot bucura mai mult de viața personală.
Yeah, it's true. And to continue this idea, if we look from Romania towards the Nordic country, and of course Iceland is one of those, we see a higher quality of life, better economies and stronger economies, much more attention towards the citizens. I mean, we look towards your systems and say, look, these guys really put the people in the middle of the system. If you want to solve something, even the simplest problem in Romania, it looks like the system works against you, not for you. How can we, reverse this?
Well, first I would like to say we are not perfect in Iceland, and we have loads of things to do to really achieve what we want to achieve. But I think that it's very important to think, as I say, holistically. You can't have really well-being of the people without thinking about human rights and gender equality. When you think about the system and the people, you have to think about transparency, you have to think about democracy and how you can preserve democracy. This is one of the challenges we're faced with, all of our countries right now.
I agree.
Challenges to a democracy. We're seeing a very different type of political debate with the new technologies and social media. Traditional free media is a huge factor in ensuring a society where you have this social confidence and societal resilience. And I think maybe what's important in the Nordic countries, you know, the people there don't necessarily trust their politicians. I don't think they do that anywhere really, but there is a very strong confidence in society, and I think that is really one of the key elements to the Nordics, that we trust each other as people.
Cum măsori fericirea, care până la urmă este o stare sufletească? Cum mulțumești oamenii? Pentru că știm bine, este o misiune greu de îndeplinit. Și totuși se poate. În Islanda, guvernarea este construită cu o orientare spre viitorul în care creativitatea umană să se poată dezvolta. Dacă oamenii se pot folosi cât mai mult de calitățile lor naturale, atunci crește și nivelul de empatie și afecțiune la nivel de societate. Iar o societate în care oamenii au mai multă încredere și înțelegere reciprocă forțează și guvernul la mai multă receptivitate pentru îmbunătățirea politicilor.
Since you are quite an experienced politician and you are the Prime Minister of the country for such a long time already, do you think one of the to-do list mandatory theme of a politician is also the happiness of the people?
The happiness is the core of the well-being project, really. To think about really how can we reduce misery or increase happiness. I think a key factor that there is equality, because obviously income matters to ensure people's happiness, but there are other factors that matter too. A strong welfare system, health matters, mental health, physical health, communication matters. And we saw that when we were thinking about the well-being project in Iceland. We asked the people, what do you think is most important for your personal well-being? Number one was health. Number two was actually communication with others. And at the same time that we have all this social media where everybody has a voice, we are also dealing with algorithms. So you actually hear maybe even less diverse voices than before, because you tend to only hear those who agree with you. And we see more loneliness than before. So there are so many challenges to deal with at the same time, democracy, new technologies, but also the environmental crisis, obviously.
Inequality is something that actually creates tensions at the level of society, and there are still issues at the level of the entire world, not only in Europe, related to how women and men are getting paid. Rhetoric is one side, but it looks like a lot of men leaders are not into the fact that women and men really have the same qualities and the same flaws. Why is it so hard to really get there? I mean, it's the 21st century.
It's one of the most deeply rooted inequalities that we're dealing with, the inequalities between men and women. And I think actually all inequality is bad. And I think the reason for the social confidence in the Nordic countries is the fact that they are among the most equal countries in the world. I think when it comes to gender equality, it's really unbelievable how far away we are from reaching gender equality. And even Iceland, which is at the top of the international lists when it comes to gender equality, we are still dealing with gender pay gap. We are still dealing with gender-based and sexual violence and harassment, and which is both a cause and consequence of gender inequality. And of course, with an inequality and injustice so deeply rooted, it takes time to turn the ship, but it also takes a lot of decisive action, because gender equality won't just happen. You need decisive action, you need to change the structures in society, so all women will actually have the same opportunities as all men.
And can you give us some examples from Iceland when it comes to equal between women and men?
Well, I think the changes that, and I must emphasize that I wouldn't be in my position except for the really strong generations of women that came before me and actually implemented a very good kindergarten system in Iceland, which actually fought for a parental leave which is shared between men and women. And so actually the parents both have an equal part of the parental leave, which is probably one of the biggest changes in policy that has actually influenced the values of society. So I think the fact that I can be a prime minister and just a very normal person and also have 3 kids, so I don't have to really choose between family and career. I think that is something that we should aim for in every society. And for all women, not just a few ones.
Yeah.
Ca să găsești echilibrul dintre nevoile oamenilor și cele ale naturii este nevoie de educație. Indiferent de domeniul despre care vorbim, fără educație nu se poate dezvolta nimic. Sistemele de educație devin tot mai pline de reguli și multe dintre ele par să nu mai fie concentrate deloc pe aptitudinile de bază, care chiar să fie de folos în viața celor care le învață. Degeaba știm să folosim computere dacă nu știm să spunem bună ziua când intrăm într-o încăpere sau să mulțumim cuiva care ne ajută. Islanda insistă pe abilitățile pe care niciodată nu le va avea inteligența artificială, cele care ne definesc ca oameni.
Since you mentioned this balance between work and personal life, the most important resource that every country in the world has is its people.
Yes.
But people need education, and in most of the countries the education systems are failing, I'm afraid. Romania, for instance, is one of these examples. Our educational system is not developing well. What does this mean for the future of a country?
Well, I think when it comes to, first, equality, there are 2 things that matters, in my opinion, and that is how we really redistribute through the taxing system and the education system, which ensures the social mobility. So education is crucial to increase equality, but it's also crucial for each and every individual. And during the times we're living, where we're seeing an exponential growth in artificial intelligence, which might really have an effect on all the labor market, on every sector, education has never been more important. And to really understand what it means to be human, not just education to learn about the new technologies and take control of the new technologies, but also to understand ourselves. So I think investment in education should be a priority for every government in these. Well, maybe it should always be a priority. I used to be the Minister for Education, so it's an issue very close to my heart. And I think the challenges we're dealing with in the environment, in the new technologies, in democracy, all require a strong education system.
And how is the education system in Iceland? Because, as I said, in Romania it has a lot of issues.
Education systems everywhere have at least many challenges. They are dealing with more diverse groups. They are dealing with the new challenges, but at the same time they have to also focus on some core issues. So I must say that education schools, we make strong demands and they carry a lot of responsibility. In Iceland the education system is mainly public. There is equal access, so that is something that is essential and a key factor in our system. There are some privately run institutions at the university level, but as I say, the core is public. And I think when we look at what the education system is dealing with, I think in many ways they have been doing an excellent job. They are trying to deal with the huge challenges of our times and meet students of very diverse origin, but obviously it's also a difficult task.
Yeah. And when it comes to technology, because of course one of the biggest discussion at the world level in our days is artificial intelligence. We already feel the effects. We are thinking what is going to happen next, which of us will be replaced by robots and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
How is this dealt with in the educational system of your country? Because here people are more encouraged to use technology, but then again, aren't kids losing the human skills if they use too much technology?
Well, I think human skills, communication skills have never been as important, and I think, you know, Iceland is dealing with that just as every country in the world, really. As I mentioned earlier, we're dealing with more loneliness than before, and different types of communicating, and I think it's actually, I must say, I also admire the young people I know, how they somehow seem to deal with it. But I think, obviously, these new modes of interaction are having effect on how our children feel. We see more depression, more anxiety among Icelandic young people now than before. And we see maybe more complications in communication. So I think absolutely that the schools should focus on it. We have made an action plan on how to meet really those new challenges, but we are not nearly there. That, you know, we are still in the middle of the river, if I may say so, as probably everybody else. And you know, the point is really that you can't really tell what will happen next in this development of artificial intelligence. You can see that it will change the labor market. It's already changing the way we seek information. It's changing the political debate. It's changing our consumption. It's changing the way we meet, you know, how young people, you know, meet people and get together, you know. Now we have Tinder. You used to just go to the pub. Now we have Tinder. So it's changing everything, really.
Islanda este cunoscută și prin natura sa cu totul specială. Schimbările climatice se resimt și acolo. Însă, indiferent cât de multe măsuri bune se iau la Reykjavik, dacă efortul de protejare a mediului nu este unul global, atunci bătălia este pierdută.
The climate is also changing, not just the artificial intelligence, I'm afraid, and that's nature, and it's us hurting nature.
Yes.
You literally live on an island, so I'm guessing your fabulous nature is also affected by all these problems that the entire world has. What are your solutions?
The world is dealing with the climate crisis and at the same time biodiversity crisis, and we are seeing the effects of this as everybody is. Our glaciers are receding. We see changes in the marine ecosystem around the country, and the problem about the climate crisis is that there is no one solution. You know, we are working on you know, switching over to green energy, for example, in the transport system, but we are also implementing the circular economy. We are trying to change the food consumption, which is also a big factor. We in Iceland, we have a relatively barren land, so we are also doing, you know, trying to revegetate and reforest. But I must say that we are not doing enough, and I don't think really any country is doing enough. We need to accelerate that, and we need to speed up what we're doing.
You are visiting Romania, and we are currently filming this interview in Cluj-Napoca, in Romania. What was the purpose of this visit?
Well, I was invited here by the university to receive a prize for achieving results in gender equality, and I do that not just as an individual but also on behalf of Iceland, and very honored to have that prize, and I hope we had a very good discussion here on the issue. It's my first time in Romania, so I think it's actually, you know, there are a lot of opportunities to strengthen the collaboration of Iceland and Romania. The University of Iceland and this university here have already a collaboration, and I think there are many opportunities in strengthening that collaboration.
And what would be those opportunities?
Well, I think we, you know, gender equality is one. Obviously, there are opportunities in trade, there are opportunities in climate, in energy. I know there is interest in deepening that collaboration. I think for, bilateral and multilateral collaboration has never been more important to deal with all those challenges we're talking about. And for a small country like Iceland, we rely really on the multilateral system, and that countries follow the rules that we have agreed upon in our multilateral organizations.
Prime Minister Jakobsdóttir, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you.
Atât pentru astăzi, dar rămânem în continuare online pe pagina de Facebook a emisiunii și pe contul nostru de Twitter. Revenim cu subiecte noi din lumea diplomației și a politicii externe, vinerea viitoare de la 11:30 și reluare sâmbătă după miezul nopții. La revedere!